right, Andrea, the floor is all yours, or the screen, I guess.
Screen, yeah. Well, thanks again for this opportunity, everyone. And good morning to the students who are somewhere out there in the world. And thank you for making the opportunity to come together to maybe learn something new. Maybe I have something that share something that you already know. And I hope this morning we'll be able to talk about particularly the icon of the resurrection. We call it the icon of the descent into Hades, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But just in terms of, normally I would come to a classroom and I would engage the teachers and the students, and we would have our icon present maybe on a big screen or something like that, and then a lot of back and forth questions, because icons are kind of weird looking. They can definitely be very different. They're not sometimes what we would normally understand in terms of kind of religious art necessarily. So a lot of times we've got a lot of questions. So I encourage questions as we go along. Justine is going to run that ship for me. So if you would like to answer a question, or me to answer a question, or if you have a comment or something along the way, don't feel like you have to wait to the end, because a lot of times, if we're talking about something, it's because you're not the only one who's got that same kind of question in mind. So I will try to be very good with sharing my screen and all of that, but you'll be patient with me. And then Dr. McClarney at the end, give me about a 10 minutes heads up before we wrap it up, okay? Otherwise, I don't want to take up all your morning, okay?
Well,
thank you. All right, I'm going to share my screen, that one there. And can everybody see that? Can everybody see kind of a blue icon?
Yeah, looks good.
We're good? Okay, well, great. Well, this is an icon. This is the icon of Easter, or the icon of the descent into Hades. And ask yourselves, I can't see you, but maybe some of you have seen this icon before. You know what, I'm gonna move my camera over here. There we go. Some of you may have seen this icon before. And a couple of things just, before we look at the details of this particular icon. Icons are theological statements more than they are works of art. So yes, they are painted, a very particular process with egg tempera on wood, and there are some mechanics behind icons, but there's more prayer than paint in an icon. Which makes it very different from Western art, we would say, or maybe a different depiction of what we might see as the resurrection icon, or the descent. This one is specifically called the descent into Hades, but theological statements, so much so that they invite us to engage with the divine. So we're not just sitting back in a museum looking at different pieces of art, or that's Da Vinci's Last Supper. No, that's not what this is. This is an encounter with the divine when we look at an icon. So let's keep that in the backs of our minds when we're talking about these icons today. And we are encountering what is holy. So much like when we are looking at a photograph of, let's say, your grandma or grandpa or mom or a child, your baby or something, you're looking not at the photo paper and the ink printed on the paper. You're looking at that image of them, and you're loving them. You're remembering, I'll use my grandpa. I'm remembering my grandpa. When I see that picture, I don't see the paper, or sometimes if it's on my computer screen, I don't see the wires and the pixels and all of that. I just see the love that I have for the person in that image. And that is what icons are all about, the connectedness between me and God. Icons are always about the divine and how I can attain that same holiness. Okay, always moving towards holiness. So that's what we call theosis or divinization, not to become God. That is absolutely not it. There is only one God, but we're made in God's image and we need to attain his likeness more and more each day. Okay, so that's my little kind of preface to icons. So let's take a look at this icon. Any questions about that? I don't see any. Nobody's got their hands up. Excellent. Okay, so this is the icon of the descent into Hades. Now, I'm just going to try to move that thing over there. All right, and I'm going to try to make my screen just a little bit bigger if I can. Oh, whoa, that is way too big. Let's go back. Oh. Yeah, I'm just going to try to stop share and I'm going to do it again. Okay, sorry guys. Okay. Well, I don't know why it's not doing this. It's kind of stuck. So, okay, going out there. Okay, gonna try again. Here we go. You guys still with me? Everybody still with me? They're laughing. The teachers are laughing because they know this happens all the time.
We're
Never
still
happened
with
to
you.
me.
You're still praying for me? Okay. All right, let's look at this one instead. There we go. There we go. Can you see that one?
Yes.
Excellent. Great. Okay. So this is the same icon. It's just a different depiction. And what we have here are, well, you can see a couple of images here, a couple of people in this icon. And this icon is called the descent into Hades, not so much the resurrection icon, although it is the resurrection icon, but it is the icon of Jesus going down at his crucifixion after his death into Hades and bursting open the gates of Hades, the place of death, and coming out very dramatically from Hades, from that place of sin and darkness. So what am I talking about? Well, first of all, here's Jesus. Okay, that one's easy, right? Notice in this particular icon that he's white. So he, and some icons do this very, very well, where the colors really have tremendous meaning. And try to imagine, now we're looking on a computer screen, but try to imagine that this is Christ on fire with light, okay? So he is luminescent, right? God, Jesus is the light of the world. God is light. And so you can see even in some of the details here of his garment, he is light. And you can notice, maybe you have, here in particular, you see this, his garment is kind of moving. Or when I'm talking to the little ones, like in kindergarten or the elementary school in particular, think of Superman, right? Think of Superman with a cape and he comes down. And what's the best part about when Superman lands? Not when his feet hit the ground, it's the cape that's coming behind him. And this is to show us in the icon that this is a really dramatic event in the history of humankind. So this is actually Christ bursting forth out of Hades, out of that place of darkness, And it's depicted, it's shown to us by the movement of the garments. So you can see it here. No, he doesn't have a big S on his chest, but he is the ultimate Superman for sure. And you can see that this movement is a very dramatic movement. Icons are two-dimensional images. They're not meant to be reflecting, an actual reality, or not. They're not meant to be realistic. Sorry. So in their two-dimensional way, they have to kind of give that realistic element. And so this is definitely one way. And we see that in other kinds of icons as well. But a little clue, we look at his garments and there's definitely movement there, very dramatic. Now, let's look down here. We'll talk about these people here in a minute, but let's look down here. What do you think this is? What's going on here? And I'm looking for some hands up if possible. Anybody, shout it out. Any guesses?
It's Satan.
It's Satan. Okay, good. It is. It is Satan. So, okay, I'm going to try to do this again without freezing my screen, or maybe I can. No. Okay,
Catherine says Satan and the frozen gates of hell.
Satan. Okay, good.
Frozen gates of hell.
The gates of Hades. That's right. The gates of hell, or the gates of Hades. And this is, a lot of times we call this Satan, and it is, but really it's sin. So when we think about hell, or we sometimes think of fire and the devil and Satan, but really what is hell? Hell is separation from God. And what is that? That's sin. And who's in charge of sin? Who's responsible for sin? Is it God? No, it's us, right? So we are the ones who choose to separate ourselves from God from time to time, sometimes more times than we should. But nevertheless, yes, this guy is definitely depicting Satan, the devil, but really on a higher level, this is sin. It's darkness. It's where God is not. And so let's take a look. Yeah, for sure. What do we see here? He's bound. Can you see that? He's bound by sin. He's bound by those choices that we can make. If I kind of bring it into a current or our context today. What is sin? When I teach little kids and sometimes adults, what is sin? Well, very simply, sin is something that we know we shouldn't do, and we do it anyway. So that's a really simple way of explaining that. And when we make those choices, we are bound by them and we are separated from God. Jesus, who died on the cross for our sins, releases us from those sins, from that bondage of darkness. And so you can see very dramatically, like, take a look. Okay, I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger without messing this up. So take a look at all these instruments of really bondage, being bound to sin. Look, nails, keys, a lock, chains, it's all there. And what does Christ do for us? He breaks us free from that. And these are the gates. Absolutely. Somebody said that, and these are the gates to Hades, the gates to hell, to that darkness. And they are literally burst open. They are busted right open. And again, a very dramatic coming out of that darkness. And now who is in the chains? It is sin, or Satan, that darkness. Any questions on that? Anybody have a comment or anything? No? Okay, good. This is so amazing because I hope I get a chance to show you this darkness in other places. We're going to look at a couple of other icons in a minute here. All right, so let's move on. Going back down.
So sorry, Andrea, I'm just going to interrupt. Benedict asked, could the bound man also represent death?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question because it is death. It is death. Death and sin go together, right? And where there is death and sin, there is not God. So the opposite of that is life in Christ. And you're absolutely right. And thank you for bringing that up, because look at the total difference here. Just look at how the icon is, the dimensions in the icon. Look at on the bottom, death, sin, down low, dark, dirty, chained, bound. And look at the size of Christ. Big, huge, luminescent, full of life and light, movement. You can see the very dramatic difference here between the two figures. And it's totally on purpose. Nothing in icons is by accident. This is totally on purpose. So very good. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that. Okay, well, what else do we see here? Something else before we move on from the image of Jesus. Well, we see the halo. So we know that people with halos are holy. Okay, that's a clue. And so we have a figure here also with a halo. Do you see this image back here? Okay, it's called a mandorla. Mandorla. And that's an Italian word. Any Italians out there? Means almond. And look at the shape of it. It's kind of in the shape of an almond. Well, in certain icons, like for example, this icon and the icon of the Ascension, for example, Christ appears in front of a mandorla. And you can see there are differing shades of blue. And in some icons, even behind Christ here, it's like a dark, dark blue, almost black. And in iconography, when you see this mandorla, you see that Christ, the darker it goes, the more we are drawn into the divine, into the life of the Trinity, which, does anybody understand the life of the Trinity? Really? No, it's a mystery, and we are not meant to understand it fully. It's impossible for us to understand the dynamic, that love between the persons of the Trinity. But in an icon, the colors, the closer we get to the center, the darker it gets, and the more, have you ever heard this phrase where the more I learn something, the more I know how much I don't know? I'm probably not saying it right, but that's the case here, where, you know, the closer I get to God, the more I realize I don't know anything about God. It's impossible. God is a great mystery, and his holiness is just, we just cannot understand it. But through Christ, we've been given that gift to understand in some way, okay? And so when we see this mandorla, that gradation of color, darkness to light, we see the contrast of Christ's light here and the darkness against the mystery of what is the Trinity, what is the divine. So the mandorla is actually really important, and you can see some stars there, and that tells us about the cosmos and the otherworldliness of who God is and what God is. Okay, excellent. Any questions on the mandorla? No, everybody's got it. Good. There's no quiz at the end. It's far too early in the morning and it's a Friday. So don't worry about that. Now, here's my question to you. Who do you think this is? Anybody? Anybody got a guess? Now, some of you may have seen this before. Some of you may know. Anybody?
Somebody says John, Adam and Eve. Christ pulling Adam and Eve out of their tombs.
Okay, who said that? I want to know.
Gabrielle.
Gabrielle gets ice cream today. Beautiful. And who said John? Somebody?
Benedict. Yeah, Kathleen says that John as well. And one of the questions too, why is it almond shape? Is there a reason why it's an almond or shape too?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know why it's almond shaped because I think that might have been the early tradition of how they actually depicted the icon. And then as we began to understand icons, we started to say, hey, gee, that sort of looks like an almond, or it's in the shape like an almond. So let's call it a mandorla. That's my guess. Am I 100% sure on that? No. Is there holiness in an almond? Probably, but I'm not sure that that's really the connection there. In some icons, it's actually round. Okay, it's actually round. So that is my answer to that question. I'm not entirely sure of that. So yes, John the Baptist, whomever said John the Baptist is correct. How can you tell it's John the Baptist? Well, let's just go in a little bit. Well, look at his hair. First of all, right, John the Baptist, he was a guy who just, you know, he was out there, he lived off the land in the wilderness, and there he is. You can tell he's not all put together, as we would say in today's terms, but he's the forerunner, right? He came before Christ, telling us about Christ and what was going to happen. So yes, John the Baptist, very good. And all right, here we go. Yes, Adam and Eve, very good. A lot of times I put this to kids in elementary school, and they have some good guesses, but rarely do we guess Adam and Eve, but absolutely. So let's think about that. Why is Christ pulling them out of the tombs? So whoever said that, now's your chance to give us a good explanation. I'm putting you on the spot if you want.
Because first of all, like why we tell it's Adam and Eve, or
any of it, go for it.
well, first of all, Adam he's depicted as an old patriarch, so the first man, and Christ is the new Adam, so he's pulling up our first parents out of their first sin, out of their original sin.
Very good. That's exactly it. Yeah. Why is there death? Why is there sin? It's because of Adam and Eve, right? That they chose to not obey God. They chose to sin, and really they chose to distance themselves from God when they chose to go against him, their choice. And so, yes, absolutely, Christ is pulling them out of the tombs. And if you look, let me do this, let me go up here. This icon, not so much, but you can see, do you see this? They're actually like boxes or graves. And if you ever, I don't know, maybe sometime you could go online and take a look, but this is what the graves look like in say Jerusalem or in that part of the world, that they were, boxes. as it were. So they're not buried deep down under the ground necessarily, but this is a real kind of more accurate, quote unquote, depiction of what those tombs might have looked like. So that's absolutely true. And he's pulling them both out of darkness, out of Hades, that reality of death. So very good. Okay. Now, I'd like to maybe just spend maybe one more minute on this and then go to a different icon, similar. Just want to point out this here. Do you see these? Well, that really speaks to the fact that Christ has come into our creation, to earth, to us, to see us. So, and you can see here that these mountains or hills, rocks are quite dramatic as well. So the whole scene is pretty amazing when you kind of take a step back and look at it. And so the descent into Hades, important, but most important is the coming out of Hades. And that's what's important for us. Okay. Any questions before we go off this one?
Kind of touched a little bit on it just a second ago, Andrea, but would Adam and Eve also represent all humanity too? And I think when you talk about those mountains, and that's where I would say yes, obviously, is the first.
Absolutely, yeah. So they are the first parents, our first parents. And so when they come out, this is our gift. Christ's gift to us by his death on the cross, that we can come out of the tombs with them through his passion, his suffering, and his taking on our sins for us, and then conquering that sin, tramping on it, as it were, down here, so that they are the first to come out, and then we follow very dramatically as well out of Christ's resurrection. So in the Eastern Church, so we're Ukrainian Catholic, I'm Ukrainian Catholic, we say during Easter, so the 40 days of Easter, we sing this beautiful little anthem, and it's called Christ is Risen from the Dead, trampling death by death, and to those in the tombs giving life. And this icon really speaks to that. Christ risen from the dead, trampling death by his own death. And to those in the tombs, Adam and Eve and us, giving life. So really an amazing icon to look at.
Okay, so two more questions on this one, and then we'll have you.
Oh, yeah.
To other.
Yes.
So is the person on the left side of Jesus, which is our right, is that David or another prophet?
This would be this. You can tell who he is. I don't know exactly who he is because different icons show different people, but you can see what he's got in his hand. He's a shepherd. So that would be the staff of a shepherd. And I would say that he is the shepherd depicted here because Christ is our shepherd, the good shepherd.
Okay, good. And then where is this original icon located is a question.
I have no idea. That is a good research for whoever asked that question. Very good. I challenge you to find out where it's from, but it is a beautiful icon. And I do love this particular icon because it's quite, it's a simple icon, but it's very dramatic.
Andrea, can I ask you two quick questions?
Yeah.
On Eve's tomb, there seems to be, I'm not sure what that is. That's not I'm assuming it's definitely not like a signature. What is that?
Well, I would just say it's, it actually could be. It could be an ornamentation, but you see it doesn't have it over here.
Yeah.
I would say that it's probably a clue to the iconographer.
Okay.
But I will check that because I don't want to say something that's not true. but if I were to guess, icons, remember, are not works of art. They are theological statements. And so it would be inappropriate for the iconographer to sign their name on it because it doesn't belong to them. It is a gift from God and it belongs to God. But sometimes you will see that, and you will sometimes see iconographers will very, very small, by the hand of, again, never elevating themselves to the level of artist or anything like that, because it's so beyond that reality.
And is there significance? Eve's left hand is not
Oh,
showing. Is there significance to that?
Yes, and that really is a sign of humility, to humble oneself before the Lord. Now, in some, you would see Adam's covered as well. In this one, you just see hers.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Good.
And the writing on the top, Benedict, the writing on the top, what is that?
This here?
Yeah.
This is in Greek, Anastasis. And these two letters here are indicating, so this, in English, this would be a Greek word, but in English, we would say the resurrection. Okay, so that would be kind of, and a lot of times icons will have kind of a title that will tell us what it is. But a lot of times you can figure it out on your own too. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that one, and I'm going to minimize that one, and I'm going to try to bring up another one as soon as I can find my cursor. Where did my cursor go? There we go. Okay, sharing another one. Now I want to show you something very quickly. A different icon. So can you all see this icon?
Yes.
Yes. Good. What do you think this is the icon of? Anybody?
So one of our, or a couple of our students saying the nativity.
Absolutely. Very good. Everybody gets ice cream over there today. Very good. And what I want to just take a look at, there are a lot of similarities, and this is actually just a detail of this particular icon. The icon itself is much bigger, but I just wanted to kind of show you something important here. First of all, okay, Mary, the mother of God, the Theotokos. So in the Eastern Church, we really refer to Mary as the mother of God, the God bearer. She was the one who gave form to God, who is without form. God is boundless. So we honor Mary for that reason. But look here, we have, you're going to say it, I hope, is Jesus. But take a look, okay? What does he look like? Anything unique about where he is or what
he looks like? It looks like he's wrapped in a burial shroud and in a tomb.
Very good, absolutely. And he is. That's exactly it. So a lot of, let's say, Western art would show, like this one, we've got the animals, we've got some angels, we've got some shepherds here. We have that here, but this is very different because Christ's birth is already foreshadowing those tombs of Adam and Eve, remember? And the shroud that he will be wrapped in. So this is not a little pretty baby blanket with bunnies or duckies or anything like that. They probably didn't have that back then anyway, but you know what I mean. It's a shroud, it's a burial shroud. And his birth is for that alone, to go to Hades, to be crucified, come out of Hades, and to save us from our own sins. So it's already a huge foreshadowing of what is going to happen. So again, dramatic. Look at the rocks here, Christ coming to our reality. Okay, so I just want you to keep that in mind. And again, this tomb, as it were. Okay, going to stop sharing my screen here. And I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to come back over here. If it lets me, I've lost my cursor again. I can't get over there. Sorry guys, I can't bring my cursor over to the other. There we go. Okay, going to share my screen again. Now this one. Can you see anything? Because I can't.
Oh, it's blank actually.
It's blank. Okay, let's try it again. I just see white. Yes, that's all I see too. So as I try to bring up this particular icon, I don't know why it's not helping me. Let's see if I can try it again. Oh, and it's disappeared on my screen too. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Let me see if we can I'm going to go to the internet and bring one up, if that's okay. Or I'm going to go to my screen here, and I will just find it again, if I can. You can see all my icons on my screen here, everybody.
Wow.
There we go. Okay. Can you see that?
No, we can just still see all your drive. So
All the icons.
you might need to share that specific screen. So if you go back to your share screen button, just click on it again, and you can pull up where you want us to see. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, we got it. Everybody see Jesus there?
Yes.
Jesus on the cross. Okay. Woo! All right. Success. So I just want to kind of bring it all together. There's a lot going on in all of the icons, and we can talk about them, for a long time, but just to kind of link the three together. So we've had that icon of the descent into Hades, and we saw, some dramatic things happening there. We just very briefly looked at the nativity icon, and now let's look at this icon of the crucifixion. So you can see it looks to me like a hand-painted icon. And a couple of things you'll notice right away, and I'm going to quiz you to see if there's something that you don't notice. Okay, so think about that right now. Obviously, Jesus on the cross. We have Mary, the mother of God, and the other women disciples are here, okay? And we have John is here, the Apostle John is here. And over here, you can't really see it here, but this would be one of the centurions or one of the soldiers. You can see in some of the other icons, he's got a much larger kind of shield. But anyway, he's there as well. So this is kind of the scene of the crucifixion. And you look again, look here. Where was Jesus crucified? Anybody?
Calvary outside Jerusalem.
Outside the gates, correct. Outside of the city. So this is a wall. These are the gates. He is not inside the city. He is outside of the city. So again, depicting the scene for us. Craggy reality. And if I can zoom in, what is at the bottom?
Benedict already asked if there was a skull at the bottom of the painting. Yeah. Yes,
a skull, and looks like a bone or something there. That looks like a bone. But you're right. And so what does that remind us of? Well, that's already pointing to Hades, isn't it? It's pointing to what we saw already in the other icon of the that body underneath, right? That sin, death, is under there. And again, by the cross, Christ is victorious over death. So you can see that, you know, it's a dramatic event, but Christ is triumphant over death, who is, and the bones signify that. Now, okay, I just would like to show you something about, like, a lot of times when I talk about this icon with younger children, you know, elementary, like at least one or more would say, look at his muscles, look at Jesus' muscles, right? And it's true. Look at his humanity. He is human. And the reason why, one of the reasons why, there may be more that I'm not aware of, but one of the reasons why his muscles are shown so definitively is to really highlight his humanity. God did not have to come and take on a human form, but he did for us because he loves us. And this is really to highlight his human form, that his human form died on the cross. God, who is human, died on the cross. So his humanity died, but his divinity did not die. We know that because in the resurrection icon, he bursts out of Hades, triumphant. Okay, so kind of a unique thing to see about some of these icons, but even in icons where Jesus is a baby, so sometimes you see Mary, the mother of God, holding Jesus in her arms, he's still got a lot of muscles, right? And that really, because babies usually are kind of chubby, and but for Christ, the iconographer is showing his humanity, which is a gift to us, that he would take on our human form.
Gabrielle asked before you move off the body, is that called a Gothic sway or something like that? Have you ever heard that term?
I have not heard of a Gothic sway, but I think this will be a good opportunity for me to speak about something, which was my next point. So that's a good segue. Is there something missing from this icon? Anything that you think is maybe, oh, somebody's talking?
Yeah, he says, why is there no I and R over the cross? So like or his wounds. So Kathleen says I can't remember, sorry. There's no thorn on his head, there's no I and R over the cross, and there's no wounds showing.
Very good. Okay. Excellent on all points. Well, first of all, interesting. I did not notice, but you're right. This icon does not show any wounds. That would be out of the ordinary. So normally we would see wounds here, we would see, and then we would see over here. A lot of times in icons, there would be, and actually this is a unique icon that it doesn't show that. But anyway, there would be where the centurion stabs, lances him. And then of course we'll see blood, and what else comes out? Water, right? Blood and water comes out. So sometimes you see that, and sometimes you'll see blood pouring down from his feet. So to answer all of those questions in 1 minute or less, there is no suffering in this icon. You can definitely see that, the people are sad here. They are upset, but Jesus here is not writhing in pain. There is no crown of thorns. And only very rarely will you see Jesus in iconography on the cross with a crown of thorns. Why is that? Well, because the cross is already a sign of victory. The cross is a sign of his glory and his gift to us. So the crucifixion Yes, Jesus suffered, absolutely. And we can see the people around him are devastated and sad. But this is quite peaceful. Just his posture, and somebody said a Gothic sway. I don't know what that is, but to me, always his posture, he's not writhing in pain. In this particular icon, it's peaceful. He has done this willingly. He said that he would do this. He knew that this was going to happen. So this is a gift of himself. So this is on purpose. So the crown of thorns speaks to what happened in the crucifixion story, that they put a sign, and they were mocking Jesus. Jesus is the King of the Jews, right? So if you're the king, which speaks to the letters that sometimes you see on top, right? Somebody was asking about that. In iconography, we don't have that. In this particular icon, I'm going to try to zoom in. I don't know if we can see it. So there are letters up here. It's in Greek, so forgive me, I don't know what that means. However, if I were to guess, in icons that are that don't have Greek but have English, this would say not King of the Jews, King of Glory. So Jesus is the King of Glory. So important that he willingly offered himself up on the cross. And so we don't see that crown of thorns. We don't see that suffering on the cross, even though we know he did. But already on the cross, he is victorious. And we see that in the icon of the resurrection, the descent into Hades. So I hope I answered those questions for you, but this is such a beautiful icon, the icon of the crucifixion. So there are icons out there which will have a crown of thorns, but you won't find many.
Andrea, we're just coming up to a few minutes left.
Okay.
Do you want to open the floor up?
Do it.
Questions, or if there's another icon you want to look at quickly, it's up to you. But
I don't have any more on deck. So I'm happy to answer any questions or keep talking, or I'm sure somebody out there has a question.
Feel free to unmute. And
I've got a question.
Okay.
In the nativity scene,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's the ox and the donkey there, they
Yeah.
look cute, but they're like right in the center. I don't know, I've never noticed animals so prominent in an icon before. It's like their noses are almost like touching baby Jesus.
Yeah. So that speaks to creation, right? And that dark spot, I can try to go back without, let me see if I can go back there, stop sharing screen. I'm going to try to do that again if I can try to bring that one back up. Yeah, for sure. So a lot of time, can you see that one back to the nativity icon? So you can see that, yeah, they're right in there. And this darkness here, sometimes these are depicted, or they represent the pagans. So the people, the Gentiles, who they're not Jews, okay? So they were not, part of the whole plan, but they were outside. And so they almost get the front row seat. And they are coming out of the cave, out of that darkness to the light Christ. So that is sometimes how they're depicted, or how they're explained. And in other icons, you really only ever see two of them. So you wouldn't see in some other artwork, you might see other animals or whatever, but in this case, you just see them. So the pagans or the Gentiles coming out of that darkness and what did Jesus say? What did he teach us? God is for everybody, right? God is, he is applicable. Christ is for everyone, and not just the chosen people, for example. Does that answer your question?
No, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Since we're on this icon, you can see that these are shepherds here, and the angel, says to the shepherds, come and see. First of all, don't be afraid, but come and see, right? The angel is inviting them to come and see Christ who is born, God who is born in human flesh. And then on this side, what happens? We have the angels singing the heavenly host, right? So, and we have, this is really important because this is the divine coming down. Again, a very dramatic statement. Holiness coming down in human form, which is pretty amazing if you think about it.
I just have one quick question, and
Yes.
I've noticed in a lot of the nativity scenes, maybe a little bit in Western art, but more so in the icons, Mary is often outlined in a red, this like a circle around her figure, and I was wondering what that means.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I understand that to be, first of all, it looks like a shawl, like a holy, so a Jewish shawl, a holy garment, okay? And she's couched in red for humanity, okay, blood, right, humanity. And a lot of times she is looking away because God is holy, right? So we can't, that's, even though that's her son, can we see the face of God? No, but she can because he is a human, right? She is his mother. So on one hand, yes, she can look at him because he's human, but this is telling us I can't look at him because he's God. So that's a little bit about her posture there. And something else here too, you might see 3 little stars, and then I'll wrap it up for one last question. 3 little stars here. She is always depicted with 3. That she is holy. She is a virgin before, during, and after the birth of Christ. So speaking to her own holiness, her own vocation as the Mother of God. So you next time you see an icon of Mary, how do you know it's Mary? Well, she'll have a halo, first of all, but look for those stars and then you'll know it's her. Although she's very rarely depicted without Christ. She usually always, because that's her reason for being, is to be the Mother of God. Anyone else? Well, I want to thank you all for inviting me this morning and for your very good questions. And I hope maybe sometime I can come and see you all in person in some way or another. And maybe we can choose another icon or look more deeply into these particular icons that we looked at today. But again, icons are telling us, inviting us into holiness, inviting us into the scene, not just as viewers, but as participants in the divine. So next time you see an icon, ask yourself, what am I looking at and what am I being called into? Called into holiness, always in an icon.